Hello and welcome to A Player's Guide to Role-Playing, How to Be a Better Player. And today we're going to take a look at how to create an interesting character. And this is going to be a two-parter. All beginnings are hard, especially for the life of a character in a role-playing game. Where do you start? Who are you? What are you good at? Those are the things that you need to know when you're starting out as a character. And why are we looking at this video game? Well, this is Skyrim. You probably already know that if you're familiar with role-playing games on a computer. But one thing role-playing games on computer games do really well is the introduction of a character and the little tutorial quests, especially the I'm a fan of the Bethesda range, Fallout and Oblivion range of role-playing games. They do it really well. They make a sort of a mini game out of it. Well, you can do that with role-playing games. They usually tend to be a little bit more dry and less story-like. But all beginnings are hard, like I said, and especially when you're a character in a role-playing game. The first thing you need to know as a player is, of course, at least a bit of an understanding of the rules of the game, because you're creating a character and you want to know what your character is good at, or what he does, or what she does. And yeah, if you don't know the rules, well, at least to some degree, you won't know what you're doing. So first familiarize yourself with the rules, but that's logical. And that's also something the video games do very well by giving you pointers, as you saw on screen. Look here, do that, press that key. Well, unfortunately, you don't have that sort of thing in real life, but you probably have a GM or dungeon master that can explain you something. So we've got that covered. The next thing you need is some kind of sheet to record your abilities on. Games do this differently. Some are very simple games, like the Hero Quest you see one over here, the starting point for many 80s child. And others have completely almost abstract player sheets that require a tutorial in itself. There are also player sheets for dyslexic persons, and all kinds of cool things. And you can make your own. You can make something that's prefab. You can take something from the book or house rule thing. It doesn't really matter. As long as you have something, a piece of paper to write down your skills and talents and statistics and special abilities and magic and all that kinds of stuff. Yeah, player sheet, just a record of your abilities. The next thing is probably deciding on who you are going to be. You have your blank sheet in front of you and you're starting out, and if you're not going to fail like this dude and die in the beginning, you're probably going to put some thought in who you are going to be. And this starts out with things like race, for instance, or gender, or profession or career and stuff like that. Take time to do this, preferably if you know you're going to play. Take some time in advance. Don't decide on the spot, but familiarize yourself with what's available. And if you don't know what's what, ask the GM or the dungeon master that can explain it to you. Now, you can most oftenly choose to generate your own character, which is the most fun. But there's most often always the option to choose a pre-gen character, or a pre-generated character, or a character that comes with a adventure, or a character that comes with the game that you're playing. Now, it's of course your own choice, and certainly for beginning players it's probably a wise choice because they're tailored for whatever you're going to play, and it will make your life a little bit easier. But they do tend to be somewhat stereotypical, um, and often in the long run they tend to be a little bit dull or flat characters, so to speak. Not bad characters. I mean, most of the characters that are pre-generated are the typical characters you would expect. They are the stereotypical characters, but they're more archetypal. I mean, they stood the test of time. They've proven their worth. They're recognizable. Everybody knows who they are and what they do, and they're generally, you know what you're getting. The wizards, the thieves, the rogues, the smugglers, the pirates, stuff like that. Um, the downside is that this forces you in a certain direction, um, and it's always fun to build your own character and uh, have it go uh, in an unexpected way. Um, Race is often a choice. Um, it has the same downfall as the careers, as the stereotypes, because, well, humans can be everything. Yeah, basically, we all know that. Um, so can other races, of course, but usually they have a predetermined disposition towards each other, or a predetermined outlook on life. I mean, everyone knows how arrogant high elves are, and everybody knows how determined and completely obsessed with the Emperor Space Marines are. And so that somewhat limits the way you can play such characters based on another race. There's less freedom because a lot of it is decided for you. It doesn't have to be. I mean, you can certainly play high elf however you want, but usually people have some expectation. Take, for instance, dwarves. I mean, what most people think of when you say dwarf is, well, basically this guy from the Lord of the Rings, Gimli. Stocky, somewhat rotund dude with a beard, with a grim disposition towards life, xenophobic, maybe even plain racist towards elves, and doesn't think much of humans, and likes fighting, and basically solves all the problems he comes across with the sharp end of his axe, as is proven in one of the early scenes where he tries to destroy the ring with his axe. That's basically how most people would play a dwarf. Fond of smithing and metalworking. You know, nobody has ever seen a female dwarf or a dwarf without a beard. But then again, take into account these other dudes from The Hobbit, also dwarfs, and certainly as a group they fit the description or the outlook on life of dwarves, but individually they're very much different. I mean, the two of them even hardly have a beard and aren't fat at all. Well, fat, well, rotund at least. And they solve problems differently. And they each have very distinct characters, are very, very distinct characters. So they're not actually the typical, stereotypical dwarf. And I think as characters. I mean, you can think of the movies what you want, but I think the characters are more interesting than the Gimli character. I think Gimli is fun as a dwarf, but in the Lord of the Rings, he's more of a side character. Whereas, of course, in The Hobbit, some of the dwarves are leading characters, and they're more fleshed out. That's also logical. But think of that when you're choosing a, a race or figure other than human. Are you going to play it stereotypically, or are you going to make it your own, so to speak? Now, of course, there are many different ways to create your character. Some rules have you roll dice for certain statistics. Others have you allot points to certain statistics. Role-playing games often have you perform some kind of mini quest, and then at the end of the quest, base the stats on how you performed. Some have questions that you have to answer, and then your character gets created based on your answers. There are different ways. Some just let you pick it willy-nilly. And depending on the system, there are certain ways to do it. But there's always, well, almost always a chance to maximize your character, the so-called min-maxing, putting the stats to the best effect, the most points to the best stats, so to speak. Gear it towards the most effective way to level up, or the most effective way to do X. Of course, that's a choice. That's a approach to do it. But I would say it is the somewhat less interesting way to do it, because you're creating a character that really performs really well in certain areas, almost to a degree where it doesn't pose a challenge whatsoever, and really it does really poorly in other areas. And because of that, you tend to avoid such situations, and makes sort of boring gameplay. And also your characters tend to be less sympathetic to the other players. So I advise to try and avoid that as much as you can. You can also, it's something, it's not the same as having a preference for something. Of course, you can have a preference for like a stealth character, or a wizard character, or, you know, that's not the same as completely tailoring your character towards, you know, speed running a level or something. That's something different. So be careful with min-maxing, because it takes the joy out of, well, out of the character. Another way to do it is just go the opposite, is just spreading it out as evenly as possible. Certainly a way to do it, but this makes for a sort of bland character, certainly in the beginning. So what is a good way? Well, if you ask me personally, I prefer the completely random way, because then you don't have any influence on the outcome, but you can always switch around some stuff. You can always take your personal preference and switch around the if you have like a low intelligence and a high strength, but you like to play the smart guy, you can always switch those things around. But I prefer the random rolls, because it makes your character more organic, or more natural, so to speak, more real. And it gives you an interesting starting point to find out who this person is that you're playing. because the statistics come from somewhere, so it gives you a starting point to create a backstory. And if you tailor it completely to your liking from the get-go, then you won't have such an interesting backstory because you won't have anything unexpected. If you roll a character that has like a completely out of the chart luck stat or something that you did not expect when you started the character, you can incorporate that later in a backstory, and it's something you would not have gotten if you went min-max or completely uh, balanced. So I always try to incorporate luck as randomness, not luck, randomness as much as possible, and try to stick with the rolls as much as possible. And only on those points that I really dislike or maybe have trouble playing, um, that's where I change things. I can imagine that if you have a character that's really high in charisma, but you're not really an extrovert person, that you would not really look forward to playing that. You would maybe be uncomfortable. There's always ways uh, around those situations, but uh, yeah, if you're not comfortable with a certain type of character, just switch it around. If you prefer a style or you have certain expectations from a character or a game, and you're not sure how to create such a character, just ask the GM or the dungeon master. They will guide you through the aspects of creating a character that will suit your level of play, so to speak. Yeah, try to create a character that's tailored to your game playing style, certainly when you're first starting. If you're a more experienced player, you can, of course, just go totally random. And it is also a way to challenge yourself to, if you roll a character that's completely opposite of what you would normally play, um, then it will provide some sort of challenge. You have to solve problems differently than you would normally do. For instance, in Skyrim games like this, I somehow always wind up with a stealth archer because I prefer ranged game play. But I think I've played every almost every type except the vampire because somehow I don't like it. But I've played as a mage, I've played as a barbarian, as an orc, and every almost every possible way, and I've enjoyed all of them, and I really didn't think I would actually. But in the end, I do enjoy the ranger class, the ranged class the most. So always when you're starting a character, um, explain to your GM, the dungeon master, the games master, what your preferred uh, character or playing style is, what you expect from the character, what you expect from the adventure, so to speak, and then they can advise you on whether the character you've rolled or the stats you've rolled fit with your expectations or needs. And if they don't really fit, you can decide for yourself if it's a challenge you are willing to accept, or if you're going to change something to better tailor it to your playing style. Now, having said all that, let's take a look at character creation. In the video series, I'm going to be using some examples, and for that, I'm going to be using Warm and Fancy Roleplay. just because it's a system I'm very familiar with. I know the rules. I've got Foundry to make it easy to show it to you. I could have used other systems, and certainly I will try to make it as applicable to other systems as possible. So I will try to avoid going into rules in detail, but certainly the character creation process will be the approach I'm going to show here will be you will be able to do that for well, any system probably. First thing, you've got the character sheet. If you're not familiar with fantasy roleplay, these are your main stats like weapon skill, toughness, intelligence, willpower, that kind of things. And you've got skills that are based on those stats. And you've got talents. That's all you need to know for now. Let's get started. There we go. Like I said, first thing you do is decide a race. Certainly in Warhammer, maybe more than in other games, races tend to be very stereotypical. Dwarves are very, very dwarfy. Halflings are very, very halfling. High elves are very arrogant and good at everything. And wood elves the same, but also very stealthy. And I'm going to be avoiding them like the plague. Probably later examples will have them in the party, but as our main protagonist, so to speak, I'm not keen on choosing them. So I will be going with human, but just for funsies, let's see what we roll. And luckily, we roll a human. In this system, I can re-roll this. But if I choose these stats, I will get 50 experience points, and if I reroll, I will get less. But let's see what this is. There we go. The reason is starting a character. This will be logged in my notes, so that I can always see what I spent and why I spent it. Just a second while I put the lady in the background a little bit more quiet. There we go. Where was I? Let's see what we've got here. Weapon skill, very average. Ballistic skill, a little bit above average. Strength, a little bit below average. Toughness, a little bit above average. Initiative, above average. Agility, a little bit below. Dexterity, a lot below. Intelligence, average. Willpower, average. Fellowship, a little bit above average. Things to note is the dexterity. We're fumbling, and we're also not very agile, so maybe we're a little bit awkward person. Our strength is low, so we're kind of wimpy for now. Is this something I can live with? My personal preference would be to have at least one of these a little bit higher, but let's roll with this for now. Let's see where it lands us. Another thing we can do is fortune and fate. These are basically luck points, things to do and rerolls and such in certain situations. I have 3 points to a lot, to fate and to resilience, and the resolve and fortune will increase accordingly. Most people do this equally. This is also a very common choice because you tend to use fortune more, but I like it a little bit more even because I don't want to rely too much on fortune. Let's see. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. According to the rules, you do the skills and talents first and then the career. Some people prefer to do career first, and because then they can do their talents and skills according to their career, the starting talent and skills. But I prefer the more random approach, and that's certainly something I want to showcase here. So I'm going to be rolling for skills and talents. These are the starting skills and talents. Everyone gets to choose from this, but I prefer to start with this because this is randomly generated. I can reroll duplicates. Every human gets doomed, and then I get a choice between savvy or suave. Now, I like to base this choice on there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can say savvy is an increase in intelligence and suave is an increase in fellowship. So you can look at your stats and see, well, intelligence is the lowest one, so I'm going to choose savvy, or vice versa. But you can also look at the other skills you have. I've got artistic and I've got mimic. Yeah. It means that my fellowship skills, these are more fellowship skills and not so much intelligence skills. Maybe, well, artistic can be interpreted in different ways. So maybe the choice between these two, going by the talents I rolled, would be suave, would be more logical. So I'm going with suave. That will increase my fellowship automatically. And I am doomed. I can put in a dooming here, but that's more part of the background, and that's in the next video. Sturdy, mimic, and artistic. There we go. Now I get to put some advances in some skills. Again, you can go with the min-max way and choosing some skills that are not on your sheet already, because if it's not on your sheet you don't have it. So like ranged bow is not a skill you have automatically, so if you don't have it, you can't successfully shoot a bow. So if you're the min-max kind, you can choose more skills that are not on your sheet. But we are going to see what makes sense according to the thing we rolled. We've got mimic and artistic, so maybe charm and haggle, perhaps, or gossip. These are the social skills, so to speak. Maybe a different language, because artistic can also mean we're like singers, and maybe we know some Bretonian songs or some Wastelanders songs. Mimic is also a talent that allows you to, it's an entertainment, it allows you to perfectly reproduce a dialect. So we've got a knack for languages, so that would also make it logical to take one of these two. Maybe we're the artsy dudes, we do that, we travel a lot, so maybe Lore Reichland. Probably not something to do with animals. We're kind of awkward here, so probably not shooting and fighting. That's not our forte. We've got a very high fellowship, so leadership would also be a choice we could do, and charm. So that's a way to see what the puzzle is, to see what fits, combining what you've rolled with what you can pick, instead of just going with the most optimal choice. We're creating an interesting character, not necessarily a good or capable character, but it's something completely different. So, yeah, I think I've explained it enough. We're going to choose charm, and we can put 5 in that. They're charming as hell. And we're going to choose a language, and we're going to choose Bretonian. It's not on a sheet, so if you drag it here, 5 in that. We are very capable in the Bretonian. maybe we can sing some songs. Père Jacques, that sort of thing. Art is not something we can choose. We're very poor at art, so maybe we're more of a, yeah, we're an entertainer. We're a performer. Then lore, yeah, I think the traveling thing, or the leadership, that's because of the leadership is here, 5. So that's our 5s. We get 3 5s and 3 3s. 5, 5, 5, and our 3s. So the lore Reichland, sure, 3. And then evaluate, probably, because we're artistic, and it means you have to decide whether what you've created is good or not, if you're worth your money anyway. Evaluate, yep, put 3 in that. And maybe gossip, sure, or haggle. Yeah, if we're a singer, we gotta negotiate some fees. If we're a painter, we gotta negotiate our fees as well. Yeah, probably haggle. Haggle is a skill that's here. Yep, 3. Put 3 there. There we go. There we go. All done. That's our basic starting point. Let's delete this. And now we're going to get to roll a career. There we go. How this works, you roll once, that will give you a career, and if you take it, you get 50 experience points, but you can also reroll. It will give you another 2 options. If you take one of those, you will also get some experience points, but less. And if you're still not happy with that, you can just choose one and you don't get any experience points. Bounty Hunter, Thief Take It. Doesn't really make sense with the whole artistic thing, but then again, how could we make that work? Maybe the artistic thing, the performer thing, the jester thing is kind of our cover, so to speak. Yeah, we're pretty high on fellowship, so we can investigate, we can ask around, have you seen this person? The trick is then to catch them, because we're average, but we're not very strong. So we'll probably need tools, but we're not very good at that either. So if we're going to be a thief taker, we're probably not going to be a very successful one. We're going to be successful in tracking them, not really in catching them. So we will have to need our wits to do that. So that's an option. But just to show you what other options are, personally, I think I would make this work. These are all very social skills, you see. So that I would probably make this work, but just to show what other options there are, let's re-roll. A busker, so straightforward entertainer. And a student. Now, if I would go with what's logical with our talents and our skills, I would say busker. That would be the most logical and the most organic career. Student. What would be the thing we would be studying? We've got entertained storytelling, so maybe we're a history student, or language classical, or an archaeology student, or also get supernumerate as a talent, so maybe we're some kind of mathematical student. Engineering student is a separate career, so it's not really that, so it's got to be something academic, something scholarly. Not getting any feels for that. Also, well, we've got the stats for we've got the nerdy stereotypically nerdy stats, so that would be an option. But then we would be in art school or something, maybe. But then this would make more sense. Athletics, not really our thing. Charm, yes. Entertain, yes. Gossip, yes. Heckle, yes. Perform is also... Oh, perform is agility. Not really our thing, but you can make it work. Because agility is also a target skill, so you could start out as the bad busker and get better. Play is probably also dexterity, yep. And sleight of hand also, yep. So looking at this and looking at this, it would not be logical that we would be a busker, maybe. Yeah, I can make all of these work. So what would be the most interesting? You can have a juxtaposed thing, and certainly this scrawny, clumsy person as a thief taker would make for some interesting situations. The scrawny, clumsy person as a student, that would make sense. It would be somewhat more stereotypical. And the busker that still has a lot to learn, that's maybe an interesting angle. Certainly we've got the artistic talent, and we've got art. We can put it into any career, not at the starting point sadly, so if we can put it here, it's not in it, so we can put it in. So maybe this is the most interesting. It will create an interesting arc. We are passionate for art and entertaining, but we lack the physical ability for it. But we've got pretty good charisma, fellowship, convincing skills. Yeah, I think busker is an entertaining choice in this. It will create an interesting arc. How we will get from the clumsy juggler that drops all the balls and torches to that expert entertainer. More interesting than a student? Yes, that would be a very stereotypical choice. More interesting than a thief taker? I think we will struggle too much, and I don't know, it's more of an outdoorsy type, more fighty. Let's go with busker. Yep. The good thing about this system, it gives you a choice, even though it's random. I think we came to some choices that we otherwise, if we just filled this in, would not have made. Maybe if I changed this around, I would have gone with thief taker. Busker, yep. Let's go with busker. There we go. Okay. Make it current. Now the next thing we can do, we get 25 experience points. Yay. And we get to allot 40 points into the skills, into the targeted skills, and 5 points in the target stats. Those are all marked with a plus. And here as well with a plus. And those that are not on our sheet are grayed out. Again, here you have the choice to min-max and just put 10. You can put 10 at most in one. You can put 10 in some skills that would give you the most experience points for your buck, so to speak. It will be the cheapest way to level up. Or you can spread them out evenly and put 5 in each. That will also You need 5 in each to level up, so that will immediately set us up for that criterion. Or we can again look at our talents and our skills that we already have, and go from there. Now, first thing we can also do is pick one talent. We've got attractive, mimic, public speaker, and suave. Now, we are lucky in this way because suave and mimic, we've already got those. Or we are unlucky because I could have also gone with a bounty hunter, and then these are all talents we do not have. Well, except for suave. So, yeah, so we get to pick attractive or public speaker. Attractive would make us even more. But would have a really effect on fellowship roles and charm roles. So maybe are we attractive? Are we an attractive person? Or are we good at public speaking? These are things we can pick later in our career, but attractive is an odd one for me because you either are attractive or you're not. Well, you can grow in it when you're young, but when you're like 18 or something, or 25, that's sort of the ballpark for starting characters in Warhammer. Then you're pretty much grown into your mature form, and it's established if you're attractive or not. It's not something, oh, now I'm attractive all of a sudden. That's weird. Well, you could do some cosmetics. Of course, you can have plastic surgery and stuff, but it's not really something they do in the old world, sort of Renaissance era. So maybe we should pick attractive or not and just forget it forever, because we don't have to take all of them. We can. Or public speaker. Public speaker. Oh, it helps you when you're addressing a crowd. Sure. You are a skilled orator and know how to work large groups of people. That would come in handy. What's interesting? We've already got high fellowship. Maybe we've got high fellowship because we are attractive. What does it do? Okay. Sure, we're attractive. There we go, it's a talent. Being attractive is a talent, sure. It's free because it's the first one we pick when we start. There we go. We can always choose to do public speaker later. The skills. Athletics. Oh, first things first. First things first. Are we more dexterous, more agile, or are we even more fellowshipy? We get 5 points. We need to have 5 points in each of them to advance to the next tier. So in this case, I would say this is very low. Maybe it's a bit too low, and this is a good way to negate it. Or we can put 2 here and min-max a bit, make this 30. Or we can put 5 here. Maybe this is just a case where one of our stats is really, really low, and this is a good way to increase it a little bit, because 22 is really, really low. There we go. We're a little bit less of a klutz. There we go. We've been practicing our busking skills, juggling or sleight of hand or cups or whatever, and yeah, we can make it work. The skills. Sleight of hand. No, we're not dexterous enough to validate us having any sleight of hand skills. entertain. Entertain. Well, let's go here first. Athletics, maybe we did some jumping jacks, so let's put 2 points there. Gossip, and well, we probably did some gossiping. We're good at that. 5 points, so that's 8. And put 2 here because I don't like the odd numbers, so that's 10. And athletics. Perform any. Let's see. Yes. And what does it do? What is it we perform? So that's dancing. Or yeah, okay. And is it? It's an agility. So dancing. Yeah. Let's put 2 points in it. So that's 12. Entertain. Yep. And we can decide this later. This is a basic skill, entertain, and this is a particular skill, entertain. Like entertain, well, joking, for instance. Fellowship, so yeah, we're pretty good at that. And this is probably what we do as our thing to get by. This is how we started busking. So we're going to put 10 points in this. There we go. So I did 12, plus 10 is 22. I'm going to decide what this is later. 20, this is more backstory, so that will be in next video. The same with perform. What we perform is backstory. 22, there we go. Play, yeah, we'll play something. 22, play. Also again, backstory thing, put 2 in there. 24. Nope, no slide. 24. So I've got 16. 16. 16. 13. Maybe we're particularly good at the gossip and the haggling. Probably. We need to haggle a lot. Make this 10. Why not? And make this 10 also. So I think we got 3 points now. Because 5, 15, and 9, 34, 74. 10, 20, 30, 35, 39, 42, 47, 48, 58. I lost track. Doesn't matter. Let's just put 3 here. 3 there. I think this is it. Correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't really matter for now. It's the process that I wanted to show you, and I think I've clearly demonstrated that by playing of the things you roll and combining the randomness with the points you can allot, you can come to choices that would and decisions that would otherwise not have come up. Maybe it was coincidence that we rolled the a lucky coincidence that we rolled the skills that we did, or the talents, the starting talents with the artistic and the mimic with the busker. I think it's a good choice. It's a fun choice. We can make this work. Certainly the student would also worked, but I think this will make a more interesting story arc. Right, that's it for now. Next thing to do is details, and that falls under background. And the character background is the topic for the next video. So until then, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you later. Bye bye.